Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Harness Your Hump Day. What a treat we have in store for you today. Many of you might know that a while back, I did this CBD challenge, and I did these CBD gummies for 10 days. It was a veteran-owned business, Fiddler's Green. I wanted to support a veteran-owned business, and I wanted to just see for myself, what is this all about? And it opened up this, I don't want to say can of worms, but it opened up this conversation about cannabis and CBD and entrepreneurism. And I reached out to a friend, a colleague, an instructor of mine that I went through Delta Leadership Institute with. And he's going to come on in just a second to talk a little bit more about the entrepreneurial opportunities with cannabis. So don't adjust your screens, not because of my suit or because of the topic, but Dr. Sutherlin is absolutely amazing. And then I want you guys to, if you have questions now or in the future, I know that a lot of times we get a lot of feedback after. This is a little bit early in the morning, but I'm going to bring Dr. Sutherlin in. If you have questions, I'll try to bring them up. But if you're looking for a business or an idea or an opportunity, this is the man that's going to tell you right off the bat that there is opportunities or there isn't. So if we're going to have a discussion, an open and honest discussion about cannabis, you better listen in good. So let me bring Dr. Sutherlin in here. Hold on just a second. Hey, Dr. Sutherlin, how are you this morning?
Good, Tom. Always good to see you. It's been a couple of years since we've sort of engaged face to face, but even this medium, you always look great. Great suit, great hat. I left my hat on the hat check in the other room, but always good to see you, sir.
You too. Thanks for joining us today. One of the things we were talking prior to this, and you're, I got to say, the king of finding opportunities in business. So if there's any person that's really well versed in looking for opportunities, I would say it's you. You've got a great track record, some of the most unique businesses that I've ever heard of. And I'm really interested to hear you talk about, are there opportunities, are entrepreneurial in cannabis, and is there an opportunity to, in the future, to make money at it in a very regulated and also very negative marketed image of it as well?
I appreciate that. I think that for those who aren't familiar with me, when you say that introduction, it sounds like I'm just some schmuck who doesn't have a day job. But yeah, but actually, my sort of day gig through the University of Louisiana Monroe is Chief Innovation and Research Officer. So I look for opportunities across everything. I mean, anything you can imagine that there's an opportunity, typically for research or engagement. I'm particularly interested in this sector because we're closer to the beginning than we are at the middle or the end. I mean, the rules are literally being written as we speak. Part of the thing that drove me to this sector was an interest in environmental issues and concepts like sustainability, carbon neutral businesses, green opportunities. And there's so much being promoted about the sector that has still a ways to go. I mean, one of the issues I think for anybody looking to start a business is what will be the federal response to this. And there's a couple of pieces of legislation on the federal level that afford some opportunities, particularly for those who have been, say, in communities of color where they haven't always been, afforded the opportunities that other people have. I mean, if you look at, let's take this, cannabis industry and really divide it out. Under the cannabis umbrella, you've got industrial hemp, which is an agricultural product, mainly just the stalks that are used for fiber to create, shoes, paper, you know, sandals, shirts,
Clothing,
even
yeah.
clothing. I mean, there literally are thousands and thousands of uses for it. In fact, Henry Ford, one of his first Model Ts, was built with hemp and it was powered with hemp oil. And it's an amazing thing to think about the what if, the counterintuitive of history. But the other piece of it under cannabis is the marijuana piece. And there you've got either a medical marijuana, which is for the most part very well regulated, but it's still regulated state to state. And then you have the recreational piece. And the recreational piece is one that is going to really require a federal response. Right now, if I'm doing business in one state and I'm wanting to cross state lines, have I engaged in interstate commerce? Well, interstate commerce is entirely regulated by Congress, therefore necessitating them stepping into it. But the two pieces of legislation are interesting for those, say, who were part of that war on drugs community, again, typically poor people of color, that picked up, say, a possession or an intent to distribute charge. The idea would be to federally expunge that, because if you have those kinds of dings on your record, it's very hard for you to get conventional financing, particularly bank financing. It's hard for you to get insurance. And these are, as funny as this is, there are lots of sort of very elemental things that need to take place before someone gets into this market entirely. But one of the things that we have seen is there are tremendous, say, state and regional opportunities, state by state, providing the medical piece to it. But there are still, like with any sector, there are going to be issues that have to be resolved.
So what I'm hearing is, and what's interesting, the way you took this, because people need to also know you have a political background too. You're a professor. So the opportunities to make this more equitable, if you will, for people that especially of color that have had issues of possession, if that's expunged, we could be talking about a whole new market and opportunity for a different group of people that haven't had entrepreneurial experience. So I didn't even think about that. So when we're looking at entrepreneurial opportunities, we're looking at them across the board if some legislation would allow them. Because you're right, businesses have to have insurance, they have to have certifications, and much like, I guess, other industries like alcohol, you have to have, there's going to be some areas where you're going to have, I guess, a clean background. And because this is targeted to African Americans, a black population that have been in for possession, this could really create a whole new opportunity of not just for the cannabis industry, but other entrepreneurial industries that have certifications that require banks and loans. Interesting concept. I didn't even think about that.
One of the things too about this is that a federal expungement is very different than a state expungement. And for some municipalities, large communities, there will be city or municipal charges. So a federal expungement does not guarantee state. So this has to be something that is a federal requirement. It's expunged all the way down. And then the question then becomes this: what do you do with the large number of people who are incarcerated basically on multiple possession or intent charges? How do you get them back into society? And the idea is it's not just a race issue, but if you look at the history of cannabis, particularly marijuana related regulations, it really starts out in this country as an anti immigrant policy. In Texas, it was anti Hispanic. California, one of the first states to enact very strict marijuana laws in 1913, starts in San Francisco as being anti-Chinese, anti-Indian immigrant, and then ultimately expands. And what's amazing to me is the rhetoric used then is the same rhetoric you see today. It's the we've got to do something about these foreign, these Hispanic, these African American, whatever the demon du jour is, to exercise this. And marijuana was used to keep Hispanics, disrupt Chinese, Indian communities, certainly black communities. And by the time we get to the 70s, this sort of war on drugs has so much fuel put on it that it was a deliberate attempt to really bust up, you know, anti-war hippie whites and black radical communities, and it was something that was pervasive across the country. Today, when we're looking at this, I mean, back to your point, getting a business loan, yeah. In Colorado, when the industry first started, banks would not even give change to cannabis related businesses, or what are called MRBs, marijuana related businesses. So you go down there with a 20 and you need 2 rolls of quarters and you can't get it. Um, you can't discharge a bankruptcy. So imagine not being able to be afforded the federal protection of Chapter 7 or 11, or the ability for when you do your taxes to write off legitimate business expenses that are associated with it. So there's a leveling that needs to take place on the playing field. There are plenty of opportunities, and the opportunities go across everything from, say, an agricultural setting, if you were raising hemp outdoors. But remember, medical marijuana and almost all recreational marijuana is going to be raised indoors in greenhouses. And because of that, that requires a different capital cost. It requires a different energy and water commitment because you've got so much, it's concentrated in such an area, and you've got multiple crops that you can do over the course of the year. So, again, a lot closer to the beginning than we are towards the middle, and a lot of the rules are being written as we speak.
So for small business owners, for first time entrepreneurs, and this is a little bit of a prediction, where do you see opportunities in all those three categories that you were talking about? Where do you see the opportunity for a small business owner or an entrepreneur to come in and possibly, I don't want to say get a piece of the pie, but I guess I'm saying a piece of the pie. What area, where should they be looking? Where should they be researching now?
There are a lot of small, sort of, you want to say, mom and pop businesses that have operated almost like a franchise. So you've got people that have some income or the ability to borrow or to invest, having a retail store, and you see a lot of these things popping up in different places where they will sell some edibles, some Ticheners, some gummies, but increasingly selling flower products. And this is one of those. This is the weird thing about the way the industry sort of expanded. In 2018, with the passage of the Farm Bill, hemp and hemp related or hemp derived products were now legal for the first time, since Popeye was a baby. So now we've got a situation where different types of hemp products open up. You see the CBD open up. And one of the things that was a result is that the prices of CBD just went through the floor. So now cultivators, as they are called, chemists in many ways, said, we've got all this cheap CBD. What are we going to do with it? And this is where the whole Delta 8 market emerged. Delta 9 is what most people associate as being the psychoactive THC, and that's outlawed, except in those states where you can have recreational or some medicinal use. Delta 8, on the other hand, is, if you looked at it sort of a schematic of the chemistry of it, it's only a couple of molecules off from Delta 9 and seemingly has all the medicinal benefits, with the exception of that it doesn't include the paranoia that often is associated with people who get the psychoactive high from THC. So you see a lot of Delta 8 products out there, and that's opened up a whole new area because you have Delta 8 flour, Delta 8 edibles, all these things. And this is a space where an entrepreneur can get. There's also a lot of usages that we are still, in many ways, finding out. People do, as you have done, this CBD challenge, where they take a certain amount of CBD. One of the things that I tell people who are looking to do this, of course, every time you do anything like this, check with your physician. Don't
Absolutely.
just go out there and start experimenting on yourself.
Yeah,
God only
absolutely.
knows what would happen. You could end up looking like Tom. Um, it,
It's true. It's true.
it could happen, but you want to look for third party verification. You want to look that an independent lab tested this and found that this was safe, it was reliable. I can tell you this for free. This is my free piece of advice. You cannot get quality CBD at the thrifty liquor store. You cannot get it at the local Stop and Rob.
You
The
heard it
place
here
that
first, people, from Dr. Sutherlin. You heard it first.
you cannot get medicinal products at the same place you buy hoo-hoos and Cheetos and cheesy Dorito, whatever. Okay. you go and you go to a real store or you order it online and do your research. The other place too, for those people who have property, they may rotate crops. And I've talked to a lot of farmers. We did a major cannabis conference, first ever in Louisiana, a cannabis conference a couple of months back. And there was a large number of black farmers that approached me and saying, we do this and we've been doing this. We've been doing, corn, rice, cotton, rotating it. But we have a period from late October to early February where we don't grow anything. And I said, well, the nice thing about hemp is that you can grow it a couple of times over the course of the year. Here's
Hmm.
the issue for people entering this space. If you're going to grow any product, you want to make sure that there's a processor that can take that product. So if you have just a whole field full of hemp and you've got no place to take it, who will buy it, process it, make anything, when you get through, you're going to have a whole field of hemp and you're not going to have anything. And so, what you've got to do is work with some of these ag business connectors, some of these multi state marketing places that will take hemp, um, but also the space for medical marijuana and particularly recreational. The big bet, if you want to look sort of forward, the big bet is that recreational marijuana will continue to grow, or the threshold for getting a prescription will be so low that you pretty much can go into any doctor, make the claim, get a medical marijuana certificate, an MMC, and be able to access medical marijuana.
If you had to make a prediction, how many years out are we to that point?
I still think that certain states are going to object, and ultimately, the feds are not going to force a state that is adamantly against it to do it. I think in many ways it'll open up the way that, um, following the repeal of the Volstead Act, which was how we outlawed alcohol, that there will be an opening up. You may have some, say, counties that remain, as we would say, dry across the country. Remember, when cannabis came to Colorado, there were only 5 counties in the state that initially where you could have grown, dispensed, the whole range of things. What they found was it was very difficult to track the illegal market piece of this. So you open it up so you can better regulate it. I think what you're likely to see is a 2 to 3 year window for the feds to do something that establishes the beginning piece of what would be known as best management practices, whether we're talking about for banking, finance, taxation, accounting, and on the environmental side. I mean, one of the things that, and this is how I sort of stepped into this space, that concern me is that any industry that promotes itself as clean, green, renewable, ecological friendly, carbon neutral, all of that, and chances are it's not. And in fact, it's not at all. I mean, when we look at and compare, say, greenhouse grown medical marijuana or recreational, the ecological footprint of something grown in a greenhouse is going to be tremendous compared to, say, growing lettuce or ornamentals or onions or whatever. And so, there needs to be a better truth in advertising on some of this. But to your question, a 2 to 3 year window on the Fed side, it will be longer in certain states. And what I have found, one of the stranger pieces to this is that it's one of those issues that really cuts across party lines real well. I mean, oftentimes in Louisiana, for example, and in other states, particularly southern states, you see um, Democrats and Republicans coming to the issue for different reasons. At the cannabis conference that I spoke at, uh, Democratic and Republican legislators had come together to push the medical marijuana bill, to push it through, to make sure that there was no resistance. This past year, we rewrote the hemp laws for the state with bipartisan support. And I think that bipartisan support on the federal level obviously is going to be essential to getting something through both the House and the Senate. I will say this, though. I mean, remember, President Biden didn't come into this with a long track record of being supportive of progressive policies towards marijuana. And so and Kamala Harris made her career out of prosecuting low-level drug offenders in California. And so there will need to be a paradigmatic shift, even at that level in the White House, to embrace this. Will this be something that will be put back under the Treasury Department as it initially was? Don't know. Is it something that'll be exclusive to Food and Drug Administration? What does seem to be guaranteed is the moving of the enforcement of national drug, and I say drug, marijuana, heroin, cocaine, everything else still under DEA, but removing marijuana out of DEA, putting it under, say, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and then regulating it the same way we do cigarettes and liquor.
I actually see that move happening and shifting that way. So, last question, and to tie it back into kind of branding and marketing, and I definitely want to hear your input on this. How one of the questions I got was is it real? Are you getting high? I mean, there was a lot of joking with it. How do we market and brand this massive concept product to shift, to make it legit, to make it more serious? Like, what do we have to do to brand it?
It's an excellent question, and even, let's say, again, a couple of months back at this cannabis conference, there were initially so many of these sort of goofball Beavis and Butthead type jokes that you just sort of scratch your head and say, wait a minute, we're in a room full of doctors, pharmacists, business people, and we're making Bob Marley references as if that's it. The industry has to mature. It's something that I've said for a while. The if in fact what you ultimately are is a semi-educated stoner, you're not going to get middle America people to go along with it. And at some point, and this is one of the more interesting things about the demographics of usage, when you talk to medical marijuana people from around the country or dispensaries, they'll tell you that their customer base is 50 years old and older. It's not 18 to 25-year-olds. It's 50 years old and older. And for example, like with CBD, there are no psychoactive high effects of CBD. It's in many ways akin to some type of homeopathic nutraceutical souped up vitamin that helps you with pain, inflammation, a whole range of things. I think that the seriousness of it as it becomes a legitimate business, will force the a certain amount of rigor into the industry so that you can have a discussion of it without going through, the perfunctory 50 slang words for marijuana, every single time. Or, I'll give you a goofy example of this. When I posted something about speaking at this cannabis conference, a number of people said, what were the qualifications for being able to speak? Did you have to prove that you smoke dope on a regular basis? And I said, what's interesting about this is I, I approach this from an environmental regulatory perspective, an entrepreneurial perspective, and not from a I'm trying to work on the regulations to help pad my own insatiable desire to get high. That that has nothing to do with anything. The industry itself, though, needs to mature and add a certain amount of precision to it. And the precision to it includes the marketing. I get stuff all the time about how, CBD will give me whiter teeth, fresher breath. I'll get 6 inches taller. I'll look like Denzel Washington. I mean, just a whole range of just outrageous claims that really erodes the fact that there are some wonderful things, particularly for veterans who suffer
Yes.
with PTSD, that's being developed. I mean, during a period of time in this country where there was basically no pharmaceutical research on cannabis, countries like Sweden or Israel were moving forward with this. And so there's a lot of information out there. I recently did There's a university in the state that we partnered with to do a certification program in cannabis, and several of the people that were part of the class are veterans. And to a person, they all said, "Look, we are simply looking for something beyond taking opioids to
Yeah.
address our pain and PTSD."
The VA pushes prescription drugs that do more harm than good. My personal opinion, and from what I've had experiences with some friends and other veterans, absolutely, I think that there needs to be one of the things I really. This is my wish list for rebranding. Stop using the pot leaf. Get rid of it. Stop putting marketing with the pot leaf in it because I think it's got decades of negativity associated with it. You know, the music industry, you can, it doesn't matter which one it is. You can go country with Willie Nelson. You could do the Bob Marley. You can do the rap music with Cypress Hill. You could go on and on. They all use that image and it has a negative connotation. So there needs to be a completely new branding opportunity with it as well. Man, there's so much we could talk about this. The beer industry. I've had some beer that's been infused with hemp beer. There's a lot of, to me, there's a lot of correlation, Dr. Sutherlin, with alcohol when it went through prohibition and then it came back out of it. And I could be right or wrong on that, but I just feel like there's a lot of comparison with that because there was a stigma and then it came back out. There was at one time, like per capita, more craft breweries or taverns brewing their beer in America pre that. And now we're getting back up to those levels, but obviously the population has increased. But it just blows my mind how industry was dissolved overnight, and it was left with 3 major breweries that were able to stay in production, and by doing water and some other other effects of it. And then after that, they had them all underground. There's just, to me, there's a lot of correlation between the alcohol industry during prohibition and this. And I think there was medicinal uses back then. The reason they had alcohol, they didn't have water purification. There's so many correlations here that you could say, hey, I think we're going to lean towards that. But I think what happened was it became a political issue with this, and there in a group, and it's usually always a small group of people said we're going to keep this down, and it's, to me, I'm learning as I go as well. That's why I did that CBD challenge. It was interesting, and I'll just tell you real quick. I did 5 days in the morning right after I went to the gym. It was great, and I noticed after about the 3rd or 4th day, I was getting a little bit more too relaxed in the afternoon. So I'm like, I don't like that. But I will tell you, my anxiety of just owning a business, and any business owner I will tell you, they are lying if they don't say they're under stress or have some sort of anxiety. It relaxed me to take on all the challenges during that period. So then I switched it to night. And then I found out that I kept waking up at like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, but I wasn't having those racing thoughts where I'm trying to, it was just, I woke up and I was able to go back to sleep. So I was kind of inconclusive as if I thought it was beneficial. I would like to take it during the day, but I think if I went back, I would do it every other day, like the gummy or an edible like that, because I think that would have been my ratio. Because like you mentioned, metabolism goes into this. You got to talk to your doctor. There's a lot of things that you have to figure out, and it's not just a one size treats all. And then the last thing is, as a former educator and teacher myself, I don't know if we'll get to the point where we can try to get kids that suffer from ADHD off of that horrible medicine that works for a small amount. But I'm seeing this might be an option too for parents that are struggling to help with some of the kids. So anything you want to wrap up and tell us as we finish up today?
Well, there's certainly, I think you've hit on several good points here, and I think the idea of, if you're interested in something that will help get you off of opioids, pain medicines, a whole range of things, clearly talk to your physician about it first. There are a lot of really good products out there. There are a lot of crummy products out there, like there are with anything. And what I have found is that if you are really diligent about it, you can find the combination that works for you with your metabolism. What I've found is that having a small amount of CBD product throughout the day, not one dose, but smaller amounts throughout, it's a more consistent leveling feeling. One of the things that a lot of people report is that better quality sleep, which helps your body heal naturally. And probably the best thing in the world you can get: clean air, fresh water, and good sleep. And if you have something that contributes to that, you're on your way to better health.
Well, Dr. Sutherlin, thank you so much for coming and talking. As always, it's just a great history lesson. It's a great open and honest conversation, which I love. I love those. And keep us posted if you see some other great opportunities, not only for veterans but for any business owner. Please reach out, and we'll have another discussion very soon.
Yeah, and have your audience feel free to reach out to me. It's not a problem. They can email me is the best way to do it. If you don't mind posting the email address, and then I'm glad to do that. And I travel all over looking for opportunities. So anything that comes up, feel free.
You're the man. Thanks a lot, and you have a wonderful day, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tom. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Finishing up real quick, let's go with announcements. As always, every Monday, please check out Marketing Makeup Monday with Crystal Davis. She gives best tips and practices how to brand yourself through makeup, and she also delivers an amazing motivational speech. I don't want to say speech, motivational, inspirational quote or something of the day. But she's amazing. Everybody loves to watch those Marketing Makeup Mondays. Also, please join us at the Stars and Stripes Facebook group. Go there. It's a partnership that we have with Withers Broadcasting and Dana Communications. We love to help promote veteran businesses, veteran organizations, and just support and throw positive things out there to show the military we support them and we love them. All right, let's see what we have for events every Tuesday at Country Cupboard in Carterville, Illinois. There's Memory Cafe Tuesdays with Becky Salazar over at the Egyptian Area on Aging. This is a group for Alzheimer's and dementia to get together, to have some support, have some talk, get out of the house, and have something positive to do throughout the week. Next up, Friday, October 29th. People, it's here. The Live to Lead, Change the World. It's at the Marion Pavilion. If you don't have tickets, I don't know if you can get them anymore, but you're going to miss out. You might be able to reach out to the contact person, Russ Williams, to see if there's any available. But it's this Friday, the 29th at 8:30 a.m. Also, Saturday, November 13th, the 12th. I can't believe that. The 12th annual Southern Illinois Chili Cook-Off is taking place in Marion. And you have a contact person if you want to sign up, or if you want to get a little bit more information. You can go over to Julie Campbell, and that is Saturday, November 13th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 204 South Market Street in Marion, Illinois. Yours truly will be judging the chili for the 5th year, I believe. I've been there judging for 5 years. The theme, Las Vegas. So come out, check out Elvis, check out all the things going on in Las Vegas, and try some awesome chili and raise some money for some amazing organizations. Everybody, thank you as always for tuning in. And if there's anything that our team here at Harness Digital Marketing can hashtag turn the light bulb on for you, reach out to us. Go out into the world, make it a better place, and be the reason somebody smiles. Goodbye, everybody.